Welcome to the Productive Life Podcast. I am so excited to be back after a 4-month break. I cannot believe that I took a 4-month break from the podcast. I definitely did not set out intending to take a 4-month break. And that's why I wanted to come back with this life and business update. I wanted to share what's been going on in the business because a lot's changed, what's been going on personally because that is a big reason of why I took a break, and just get you all caught up. So let's dig in. Welcome to the Productive Life Podcast hosted by me, Megan Minns. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to be more productive in their business and their personal life. Because as a business owner, your business and personal life are connected, and we can't talk about one without talking about the other. Each week, you'll learn about productivity, organization, personal development, self-care, business strategies, and more. And now, let's get started. Okay, wow, I can't believe it's been 4 months. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who sent me a message on Instagram, who sent us a kind email, who reached out, not only checking in, but just asking how things are going, wondering if the podcast is coming back. Those messages really meant a lot to me. I honestly didn't know if anyone would notice when I stopped podcasting. So that was really, really special. And I'm very grateful for every person who reached out and for everyone's understanding. If you're on my email list, you know a little bit more about why there's been a break, why I've been more quiet, what's been happening. But it's time to make a podcast about it, get the ball rolling again. And I am coming back with the podcast on a weekly basis. So this is just the first episode back. And before I dig into why I took a break, what's been happening, I do just want to go ahead and put a disclaimer on this that if you are someone who's been going through infertility, miscarriages, and things like that, if this topic is triggering for you right now, then I would encourage you to come back to this when you're ready to hear someone else's story or experience, because I've totally been in that place where it's not helpful to hear those things. And then I've been at other times in a place where it's really helpful. So just want to throw that out there that, if this isn't your type of episode, you're not in a place where you're open to hearing what someone else has been going through, then I totally respect that and love you anyways. So as you might have guessed, we'll just jump right in. And I also want to say that this episode might be slightly more raw because I've already started trying to record this episode like 4 times. And I keep feeling like I say something wrong. And ultimately, I know that I just need to chat and get it out there and not worry about saying things perfectly or explaining my feelings perfectly, and instead just share and get it out there. So that's going to be my approach. So this might be slightly more rambling or story-based than typical. So thanks for listening in advance. So in November, the last episode went live. I think it was around mid-November. It's now mid-March when I'm recording this, so it has been 4 months. And I was actually due to do another podcast batch in November. For most of 2019, I was really ahead of schedule. I think at one point I was even 3 months ahead of schedule, which was wonderful because I had a large intuitive execution launch in October, which meant I didn't have to record any new episodes. So after the launch, it was time to record another batch, and that was in early November. And I was just really focused on fulfilling intuitive execution, leading those coaching calls, creating new and better content. And so I actually got pretty close to like the deadline of when I needed to record another batch. And that is about when we found out we were pregnant. And so we had a miscarriage in January of 2019, for those who don't know. So this was our second pregnancy, and we were really excited, and it happened very quickly. We had taken a break from trying. And so when we decided to try again, we actually got pregnant for the second time, our first month trying, which was like exciting. Yay. Wow. That was so easy. How great. And anytime I've been pregnant, I am flat out exhausted. And so it was definitely a weird situation where it was time to do another batch and I was just tired and I didn't feel emotionally or physically in a place to record another batch. And as you know, most likely, self-care is really, really important to me. Listening to my body, avoiding burnout, those things are super important. So I had decided to just give myself a break from the podcast, just take a couple weeks and come back in December with some episodes all about goal setting, year in review, all those fun things, all those fun December topics. And then the first week of December, we found out we were going to have another miscarriage. So it was either like the very end of November or the first couple of days of December when we found out that we were going to be miscarrying. And of course, it was very disappointing and definitely emotionally very, very difficult. And the cool thing about the second experience was that I had always said after our first miscarriage, where I didn't tell anyone for a long time and I felt really isolated. I'd always said, when we get pregnant again, I'm going to tell people like immediately, like shockingly early, and I'm going to have that support because I realized that I needed that support personally for my experience. So we had told our friends that we were pregnant. They knew we were pregnant, and I was really grateful to have their support. It was a very different experience to have like many of my close female friends in particular checking up on us, asking how I was doing, like being really emotionally supportive meant the world to me. And it was so amazing. Truly the best thing I've ever done was letting people in on this journey of ours and not keeping it a secret, because it's such an isolating experience to go through miscarriages and infertility. It's like so weird and so isolating. So I'm so glad the second time around that as soon as we found out I was pregnant, I started telling people, and I didn't have to go through the entire experience alone. I didn't have to like secretly pretend to drink, which is always like a dead giveaway in my friend group and our families. If I don't have my glass of wine, then everyone's suspicious. So it just felt good to have people know both while we were pregnant and during the miscarriage. So at that time, I was like, okay, I just need to focus on me. It's the holidays. Like, I'm just going to focus on feeling good, and I'm not going to stress about getting podcast episodes out right now. I was still focused on, okay, well, before the new year, I'll turn my intuitive execution funnel on. I'll have all these end of the year videos. I had all these plans, and I basically had to put them all on hold. Or I didn't have to, I chose to. And in December, I was wanting to gear back up for the end of the year stuff, and it just was feeling really hard. I still was feeling all the feelings and was really struggling to get momentum with work. So that was a very different experience for me. Usually I have no problem creating momentum, so that was very weird. And in December, we did start taking fertility medication. We did not start IVF. We just started doing the medication to help support us getting pregnant. My sister, Natalie Crawford, is a REI, so she's a reproductive endocrinologist and infertility specialist. So this is like her zone of genius. She has a really incredible podcast, by the way. So if you're a woman who wants to know more about like your menstrual cycle, getting pregnant, women's health, and also just she talks about other things too, productivity. She is always so inspiring. She's my older sister, and she has a podcast called As a Woman. So you guys should all be checking that out. It's so insightful, so educational, and also inspiring. And so she was kind of guiding us through what to do next. And so we did start taking fertility medication. We also went to New York City, just Johnny and I, which was such a fun break. Tons of great quality time. Really, really needed that. Got to see the Christmas tree in New York City and just, experience Christmas up there, which was a delight. And, between the fertility medication, New York City, just everything going on, I decided to take all of December off. I was like, you know what, let's just relax and I can start January off on a good foot. I don't have to get this funnel live before the end of the year. I don't have to do another podcast batch or start YouTube videos. I can just rest and recover and enjoy my life. And so that's what I did. So I was like, okay, we're just going to end we're going to end 2019 kind of on, I wouldn't say ending on a low note, but definitely ending on a different note than I had expected. So January starts, and in my head, I'm like, okay, it's the new year. Let's do it. And that didn't exactly go as planned. In January, we escalated from just taking medication to doing our first IUI. So that's an intrauterine insemination. There's kind of like these steps in the fertility world, and we're kind of like progressing down the line, getting closer towards potentially doing IVF. So we decided to do this. And this is when the fertility medications I was taking really started to take a toll on me. In January, I just did not feel like myself. I felt like depressed, which for me, I truly haven't experienced like ongoing depression in my life. And January is when I did. I just didn't feel like me. I just felt like all this resistance. I felt stuck. I was also realizing that I kind of had put everything in my life on hold, waiting to see if we would get pregnant or not. I had no energy. I also started isolating myself where I wasn't really seeing any of my friends, and I wasn't really talking to people who weren't like my clients and a handful of friends. And ultimately, I just didn't feel like me. Like I just didn't have the energy and the enthusiasm and the motivation I typically do. I like didn't have any desire to sit down at my computer and do a lot of work. It was just so weird. And mid-January, I was just like, I need to start living my life normally, because like waiting to launch something, waiting to create something, feeling like I can't do something until we're pregnant was not healthy for me mentally. So I started kind of looking at what was working and what wasn't working in my business. And I was realizing that, back in the fall of 2019, before the miscarriage, before all of that, I had made some decisions in my business that were kind of like not making an excuse, like expecting someone else to be responsible for something. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I had hired some team members in a few different ways that are amazing people, but who were pretty expensive, and who I was kind of shifting the responsibility of like the financial well-being of my business onto, or shifting, like expecting that hiring those people would like fix those problems for me and that I wouldn't have to do them. And they were truly wonderful humans. I would recommend all of them all the time. Like they did such a good job. I loved working with them. But I just was realizing that it really wasn't a good fit. It was a bigger monthly investment than I truly felt comfortable with at the time. And that was smart, that I really needed. And I realized that the teams I had hired, like I hired existing teams instead of hiring individual contractors. And I realized that while I love the people I was working with, I really wasn't getting the like leadership that I wanted to. I have always been in a leadership position. In high school, I was captain of the dance team. In college, I was president of my sorority. In being in human resources, corporate, like that is a position of leadership within the organization. Being a chief operations officer when I worked with Mariah, like I always have loved being in a leadership position. I get a lot of personal fulfillment from that, and I love spending my time leading and managing and collaborating with other people. And I realized that just by hiring pre-existing teams, I wasn't going to get that. I would always be the client and not the leader or the CEO in the way that I really wanted to be. So in mid-January, I decided that it was time to restructure. I had to have some tough conversations and let go of people that I truly thought were doing incredible work and I enjoyed working with. But just knowing for me that in order to feel fulfilled in the work, I needed to make some changes. So in January, I created a new organizational chart for my company with the different roles that I really saw our company needing with where I want it to go. And I gave every single role a KPI, or a key performance indicator, so that there'd be ultimate clarity on like each role's ultimate outcome and desired impact on the company. I made job descriptions, and I realized that I was looking for, at this point, 3 new team members. I was looking for an operations assistant, a marketing assistant, and a graphic designer. So I did some job postings, I interviewed candidates, and I did end up selecting candidates that I'm so grateful for. So I did hire, at the end of January, I hired a operations assistant, a marketing assistant, and a graphic designer. And they're wonderful. I'm actually going to do a whole separate episode breaking down what my team looks like, who does what, all that nitty gritty. So that will come to you in the coming weeks. But I made these difficult conversations and restructured my team. These are all contract positions, by the way. And, it was a tough decision at one point, but once I started taking action on it, I knew this was the right move. And I interviewed so many incredible candidates. I was blown away. And I truly was like, I want to hire everyone, but that's just sometimes not possible. So I was really grateful for the people I did find and who I did hire. I had also been using an expensive financial team, and not that they're expensive. I probably want to stop using that terminology, but they did a wonderful job, but I kind of just got more than I needed to. And so I went from paying, $130 a month for Bench to do my bookkeeping and, a couple $100 for a local CPA to file our taxes to spending $1,000 every month on a combined bookkeeping CPA company. And they do amazing work. But I just was realizing that my business is pretty simple. And I also really didn't feel comfortable after I'd seen myself making those payments for a couple months. I was like, whoa, this is adding up, and it's really making it harder for me to pay myself what I want to pay, to hire new team members I want to hire. And I started to see that impact, and I started to see that I had hired them believing, I know it's not true now, but I had hired them believing that like I needed an expert to help me run my business when it comes to finances, and that was me offloading that responsibility to someone else, and that truly I can do that. Like, maybe one day when my business has more going on, like, yes, I will hire more help and probably reach out to them again specifically. But just where my business is at, it was a little bit of overkill, and I needed to take that personal responsibility back. So I switched back in the end of January to using Bench for my bookkeeping again, using my local CPA for our taxes. So it kind of felt like the end of January and all of February was this like huge transition. Team transition, training, onboarding, offboarding, interviews, decisions, financial investments, especially since February I was paying for both teams at the same time. So it was kind of a lot going on. And I started to feel like I was building some momentum again. It started to feel like, I was coming back to myself, like things were starting to shift positively, and that was really good. So it kind of felt like when I started February that it was actually the beginning of the year for me. I'm curious if you felt that this year. I feel like I was talking to a few different people and friends of mine who kind of had similar experiences. So if that happened to you too, know that you're not alone, and feel free to leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you are listening, send me a DM on Instagram or something. But this was how my year was. I really felt like February was the start of the new year. In February, we also did our second round of an IUI, and I was really intuitively executing the hell out of my life. I was having to give myself tons of grace because taking those hormones was still really, really, really impacting me. But I was trying to give myself grace and not say that I have to hold myself to my normal standard, that I can let myself rest when I need to. But at the same time, it was tricky because, again, building that momentum was just feeling pretty difficult during this season. But I was starting to take action with the transition of my team. That was starting to feel really good. Onboarding the technically three new team members felt really good. Knowing that the decisions I was making were leading to us actually saving money felt really, really good. And I actually started to feel inspired again. What a magical feeling. I also realized in February that I had been a little bit of the shoemaker without good shoes for a while. I've got so much experience helping other people build their teams, build their SOPs, build out their systems, get the back end of their business running well. And my own business had been kind of neglected. So February was also kind of kicking off me getting my business running up to the standard that I help other people's businesses run. So it was starting to feel really good. And yeah, I kind of ended February feeling pretty good, like ready to take action, ready to stop putting my life on hold, stop making plans until we were pregnant. So I had a lot of exciting things lined up. And then at the very beginning of March this month, we did find out we were pregnant for a third time. So our second IUI had worked and we got pregnant. But within a couple of days, we miscarried again. So that was disappointing. And this one is still pretty fresh. This is actually like the soonest I will have ever publicly talked about going through this, but I just didn't feel like I could do a life and business update and not talk about it. So we did find out that we had a third miscarriage, and it was super disappointing. I told my sister that it felt like I had pulled an all-nighter for a test, and I still failed the test anyways. And, I am someone who like, if I decide to do something, like I typically accomplish the goal. I hit the goal, I knock it out of the ballpark, I like exceed expectations. And this has been a consistent area of like disappointments and letdowns and feeling like a failure and not understanding why. It's not like something in business where you fail and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is what I'll do differently next time. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it's so hard to know like what went wrong, why something happened. It's kind of just trusting that it happens for the right reason. Sorry if you can hear that loud noise. I have no idea what my neighbors just started doing. So hopefully my editor can make this a little quieter. Hopefully it's not too loud. But it was a really disappointing way to start off the month. I ended up taking the whole first week of March off, basically. And I did have some really good clarity and lessons come through that, I am turning 30 this month, and it's rodeo season here in Houston. And I am so excited about what's going on in the business. We have incredible things lined up. I've been so excited for like months to get some of these projects done, to launch these new offers, to get this free training live, to start podcasting again. Like there's been so much internal excitement and energy. And it's been so frustrating to not be able to take action, to build momentum, to feel well enough for long enough to actually get anything major accomplished. And so, here we are in mid-March, and kind of decided to just take a break from treatments this month so I can just feel like me. And we'll see what happens from here. We may decide to take a couple months off. We may decide to do IVF. We may decide to take longer, like who knows. So we're going to just kind of wing that for now. But I am excited to be focusing a lot in the next coming months about like on the business and knocking the stuff out that I've been wanting to do now that I have the team to support me in doing it. And also a renewed focus on my health as well. Since the first miscarriage at the beginning of 2019, I have gained over 40 pounds. I am tall. I'm 5'11". So most people that know me personally have told me that they can't tell. But I think anyone knows, like, you can tell in your body when you're not really at your optimum weight. And it's not so much about like the number itself, but I know where my body thrives. Like I know its happy spot, and we're past that. And I do have PCOS, which means that the more weight you gain, like the worse your PCOS symptoms are as well. So, with all the fertility medication, it's so difficult to lose weight. I've been on workout restrictions because of it. So I'm really excited to just like get back into the habit of working out regularly. I've been eating really well. I've been vegan, but just, working out, moving my body, feeling good, feeling like myself, and kind of coming back to me. Think it's going to be really exciting. So it's kind of weird. And I know I said that February felt like the start of the new year, but now that we've gone through this third miscarriage at the beginning of the month, we're deciding to take a break. Now kind of feels like the real start of the year in a way for me. Like I feel the momentum building. I feel that it's time to take action. We're finally going to start launching things. Like the podcast is happening. I'm sitting here recording it. A new group, like a high touch group program, is going to be launching in the next couple of months. We're going to do YouTube videos, either with the podcast like this. We're going to experiment with that. We may do one-off YouTube videos. We may start doing weekly YouTube videos in addition to the podcast. Who knows? And the intuitive execution is going to be like people are going to be able to enroll in that on an ongoing basis, which is going to be really, really exciting. So tons of good stuff happening. Feeling really excited about what's coming. I feel like the next 6 months are going to be really transformative for me personally and for the business. And I'm just so grateful. So that is the life and business update. That's what's been going on. Like I said, the podcast is back. So if you happen to listen to this episode and you haven't subscribed yet, please be sure to subscribe, and that way you can start getting my new episodes every single week, and listen to some of the really juicy old episodes too. I am going to be experimenting with doing video to go with the episode. So this episode, at least, there is a video version on YouTube that goes with it. So if you want to check that out, you can go to meganmins.com/YouTube, and you can start watching the podcast episodes there or see any new videos that we release. Intuitive Execution, my signature course, is going to be available to enroll when you watch my brand new free masterclass. So you can go to meganmins.com/training, and you'll learn how to achieve your goals while working less and having more fun. So the webinar itself, the masterclass, has tons of information. And if you've been someone who's been asking me about how to get access to Intuitive Execution, definitely go check that out to learn more. And like I mentioned, I do have a new high-level group coaching program coming soon. So you can go to meganmins.com/apply to learn all about that. Get on the wait list. If you're listening to this and the application's already open, you can go ahead and apply and learn more. And I'm just so grateful for your love, for your support, for listening, for subscribing, and for just being there for me, for listening to this update, letting me be vulnerable, holding space for that. And I'm just so excited for what this year has to hold. And I know that the past 4 months haven't been my top 4 best months ever. They've been quite an uncharacteristic low for me. But I know that over time, there's going to be a lot of lessons that I can look back and see that I've learned, both personally and in business. And, you know, this is life. It's not perfect. It's not rainbows and butterflies all the time. And, you know, I just want to say thanks for letting me share kind of the real talk of what's been going on, and just so grateful for you. So thank you so much for listening, and I will be chatting with you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Productive Life Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would share your biggest takeaway on your Instagram stories or wherever you hang out. This helps me understand what you find the most helpful so that I can make more episodes and resources like this. If this podcast has helped you at all, please take just 1 minute to leave a review on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about the Productive Life Podcast with others who may enjoy it. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes sent to you directly. To learn how to work with me one-on-one or get instant access to freebies, trainings, templates, workshops, and more, be sure to go to meganmins.com right now. I'll see you in the next episode.